Hey everyone, Kevin from MechanicalAdvantage.com. Today I want to talk about a command that I find very useful for both CAD designers and CNC programmers. It's also been my experience that many of the users of Fusion 360 don't know that this command exists, and if they did notice it, they don't really know what it does. So I wanted to use this design file to run through how this command can be leveraged. One of the cool things about Fusion is that you can have a single design file that contains multiple components, and you can do all your modeling and CNC programming work, FEA design, etc. in the same design file. Sometimes that can be a drawback, however, depending on what kind of a team you're working on. Now, you might be a team of one where you're the designer and the programmer, and in that case, you don't really mind what you do to your design files to get the CNC programming done. You also might be more of a job shop type house where you receive files from customers, or even in the same company, you're supplied design files from a third-party CAD package. The final example is one where you have different departments in the same company. So you might have a design department, a CNC programming department, an FEA department, a drawing department, and so on down the line. Now, in that environment, having a single file might not be the best setup. A lot of times, designers don't want people like CNC programmers inside of their CAD file doing things like drawing boundaries for containing toolpaths, or featuring models or adding bodies to make the programming of CNC parts easier. So I wanted to use the part that you see on the screen to show how we can work in that scenario. And even if you're a team of one, you'll still find the Derive command that I'm going to show a useful command. Before I get started, I want to switch over to the manufacturing workspace. And when we take a look at this manufacturing workspace, I have 3 components I need to program, and each of these components takes 3 setups. So I've gone through and I've created all the setups required for programming the 3 components, and you can see it's going to take a total of 9 setups. My browser is starting to get pretty full already, and I haven't added a single toolpath yet. So what I want to do is run through how I'm going to set up each of the parts in the setups and what we can do to sort of simplify this. Before I do that, I want to go down to this toolbar, and I'm going to hit this little drop down and say I want to sync the view with the active setup, and I want to sync the visibility with the active setup. Now we'll see how I intended the part to be oriented for the particular setup and what I intended to machine for that particular setup. So I wanted to start out like this, and I wanted to face this part, machine around the outside, and do some of the hole work. Then I wanted to flip it over, do some of the work on the top side, and then I would sort of stand it up on a sign plate or something and do that final little angled part of this part. If I go to the next component, you'll see how I start that. So I put a work coordinate system on it, face it, do some of the hole work on here, flip it over to the other side to get rid of the excess material and clean up that pocket, and then stand it up and do some hole drilling. Move on to the third and final component. And when we look here, I'm going to see that I'm going to do some machine work and add a fillet. I'm going to flip it over, machine the other side, and one final time, I'll stand that up to add the different holes onto the part. Now, if I go back to this original base plate, I guess it's the second operation, as a programmer, I might look at some of the things that the designers did, and I might not like them, like this chamfer that's been added to this part. This chamfer is easier to program on in the CNC environment if the chamfer doesn't exist. I can use the 2D chamfer command. Whereas if this chamfer is on the model, I have to use 2D contour and figure out how to back the toolpath off so it doesn't run into the vertical wall. If that chamfer wasn't there, I could use the 2D chamfer command, and the software would automatically figure out how to stop that tool short of hitting that vertical wall. So as a CNC programmer, I'd like to take that chamfer off. However, the designer that works in the department would much rather have that chamfer be on the part. So is there a way that we can satisfy both of those users at the same time? And I'm going to switch to the design environment and show you the command that can be used to achieve that. And that command is called the Derive command. So from the Create menu, I'm going to choose Derive. Now it may make me save this file before I can continue, so I'm just going to save it and continue. And now it wants to know, what do I want to derive? You can derive bodies or components. In this case, I want to go and derive the base plate. And when I click OK to put it in a new file, it's going to open that derived component in a new file. So it looks exactly like the last one. I'm now in a separate design file, but I'm linked to the original. So what I could do in this file is come in here and do things like click on these edges of this chamfer that I don't want, and I'll grab it on both sides. Just a couple more to go, and I'll hit delete on my keyboard. And now you can see on my history as the designer, I have this body that was this delete feature that was created. However, if I go back to the original Derive part, that chamfer still exists. So whatever I do in the Derive part doesn't go back to the original. However, whatever I do in the original goes back to the Derive. So if I were to activate the base plate and I were to change the sketch and change the length of this part to be 8 inches, you see the part grows, I'll finish. I'll click the home button and choose save to make changes to that file. And now when I switch to my Derive file, Fusion senses that there's been an update and tells me my component's out of date. When I update it, it's gonna change the length of the component, but it doesn't add the chamfers back in. So if you're working in a design environment where you're working in a team, you may want to leverage this Derive workflow to separate design from manufacture. And even sometimes if you're a single programmer and the designer all in one company, this Derive command can come in handy a lot of times where you can organize your files a little bit better. You don't have to have so many setups in one design file and other benefits like that. I hope this video clarifies how to use the Derive command and how you can use it to organize your files better, whether you're a team of one or you're a team of many. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.